You can't miss it. You cannot miss the start of the next bull run. Why? Well, ultimately, guys, if you don't have all your bags packed, if you haven't put your final positions in before this bull run starts to kick off, you're not going to get chances to buy the altcoins that you know and love at these prices ever again. Maybe not even the next bear market, okay? Because things will definitely be changing, as we'll see in just a moment, over the next 5 to 6 years, dramatically. So again, it's very important we understand what date is the date the bear market is going to be ending and the next bull market will be starting, particularly so you can secure the most amount of tokens for the cheapest possible prices, okay? So let me now direct your attention to the screen, and this is kind of what we're going to be going through today, okay? So some of you might be familiar with this chart. Yes, I've used it multiple times in different videos, but we're going to be looking into different things today, okay? So I want to stress how important it really is to understand two very important things. Yes, it's important to understand when the bull market is starting, but just as important, if not even more, it's very important we understand when the bull market will likely end. Now, no one can predict these things, but as you're going to see in a second, there's some very crazy coincidences that have happened twice in a row now that give us some indication as to when this will finish. Now, why? Well, obviously because of tax reasons, right? Most countries around the world have something called capital gains tax, where if you hold an asset under 12 months and you sell that asset for profit, you will be, taxed at a higher rate. Chances are typically it's above the rate of your typical tax bracket, at least over here in Australia, plus some, okay? Over here, I think it's up to like 50%. It's insanely high, okay? So you definitely don't want that to happen. You want to reduce the amount of tax because ultimately, how good would it feel by getting $1 million and then having half of that slash? It'd feel pretty crap after that, right? Happy, sad, right? So we want to make sure that we have our bags packed, but also we have our bags in at a time where ideally it's over 12 months before we sell. Okay, let's look at this, right? So in January of 2018, what did we see over here? Well, we saw that there was about 100% retail speculation in the market. And then over here in 2021, we saw a little bit of enterprise demand come in. Again, I'm stretching probably here. I'd said 5%, but it could be a lot less, all right? But I think over in 2025, what we'll see is a lot more enterprise demand come in. I expect maybe 20, maybe even a bit more % of enterprise demand coming into the market, with still majority owned and controlled by the retail speculation. Of course, it's going to completely depend on this regulation and this sort of framework that comes in between now and possibly then, okay? So what we need to do is assess when these bull markets typically start and then see if it's going to match up with our times that we have, coming up, because it definitely is coming up. And again, very, very soon, as you'll see in just a second. So what I kind of went through and had a look at was when the Bitcoin halving happens. Now, for those who don't know, Bitcoin halving essentially is when the block reward, or the reward that miners get for putting all the hard work into pretty much running the network, in layman's terms, they get pretty much a reward back. And every 4 years, it's coded into the network that this reward is halved. This creates scarcity. This means that the network can, over a long period of time, push out all those 21 million tokens, okay? It's very fair. It's kind of like, that's why it's referred to as digital gold, right? Because these tokens will become more and more scarce. When they're more scarce, they're worth more, all right? And so, as we can see here, these green markers indicate when these halvings happening. So I think the second or third one was July 9th, 2016. And then what we saw exactly 548 days. Yes, exactly 548 days. No, I'm not give or taking a day here. We saw the top of the 2018 bull market happen on January 2018. Okay, sweet, whatever. That doesn't sound like too much exciting. But what we saw in the subsequent bull market, aka the bull market that's just gone, all right? Well, the halving happened again in 2020, right? May 11th. And then exactly, again, 548 days to the day later. Freaky stuff. I mean, this is all public knowledge. You guys can go, if you don't believe me, find this yourself. What did we find? Well, the tip of the bull market happened, right? November 10th, 2021. How freaking freaky is that? It blew me away. I've said this multiple times. Yeah, it will always blow me away. And so we can kind of use this. Again, history doesn't always repeat, it rhymes, aka it's never exactly the same, but it's somewhat similar. Now that freakishly repeated, okay, but I think it won't repeat. I definitely think it'll rhyme though. So what I'm saying here is the next halving is due sometime in April. No one knows the exact day, okay, but it's going to be sometime in April 2024. So again, we just pretty much punch in 1.5 years or 548 days later, and we can roughly guess the next top of the bull market, again, roughly here, will be in October/November sometime. I'm probably going to guess November because that's obviously late October. So what we need to do here is work back from, again, that capital gains tax situation, okay? We'll get, obviously, in just a second, into when we need to have our bags actually packed. But to kind of know when the latest possible point we should be buying projects, we have to, of course, go to this date and then work back 12 months to, obviously negate any of that tax, right? And so when we go back 12 months, we come to a point pretty much about here. But again, that's give or take. It's not going to obviously repeat. It's probably going to rhyme. So what I've done is I've gone back 15 months, as you can see here from this point, about July 2024. Okay, so yes, that's an important thing to look at because obviously that's going to give us about 3 months buffer. But then we come over here. I want to say, ideally, we're talking about a month here. So I would say you need to have your bags packed to give yourself 3 to 4 months buffer from that 12 months, just to be safe. And again, 3 to 4 months to some isn't a long time, and to others, it is a long time. I personally think it is a long time, but I definitely think it's better safe than sorry. So essentially what I'm saying here is, I'd like to briefly interrupt this program with a very special announcement. Guys, if you wanted to support all the hard work I put into making these videos for you, then there's 2 links down below I'm going to suggest you take a look at. The first is a sign up link to BitGet, which is one of the best exchanges in the space. These guys have a $300 million user protection fund and proof of reserve, so they're one of the safest exchanges and is the one I personally use for all my crypto investments. And for you non-traders out there, for you guys like me who prefer to invest and acquire the most important information and from the most reputable sources, then Token Metrics have also sponsored this channel, guys. They've offered you guys a free subscription to their basic plan, which is typically worth $20 a month or basically $200 a year. So please, if you take your investing seriously and want the most up-to-date information, go check out the links down below, guys. I've got you covered, and thank you for supporting me. Now, with that said, back to the video. When the halving happens, we have pretty much from April, 2 months to June, max to July to have our bags finally packed. So if you're someone who likes looking for micro caps, like I definitely will be doing on the channel over here at that period of time, we need to make sure that if we buy anything after that, there's a very, very, very strong chance that we're going to end up having to pay capital gains on all of those projects. Now, chances are, obviously, if most of us are buying projects like microcaps, we are pretty much not planning to hold them for 12 months. Anyway, we plan to hold them for maybe a month, max 2 months maybe, and then sell them. So we are pretty much, exposing ourselves to capital gains tax anyway. But I definitely do think for those of you who are seriously worried about this, that this gives you a fantastic indication. Again, June, July 2024. But ideally, as we'll see in a second, I believe the bull run probably is going to be ramping up, definitely by the halving. And we're going to see from experience here that typically draws in a lot of people, a lot of buyer pressure, and therefore, obviously, the prices will go up. Essentially, you'll be buying at prices 2, 3, 4x from where they are right now. Now that we have pretty much when to sell out of the way, at least as a good indication, again, I'm going to make this sheet completely free for you all to use and view, so you can go ahead and read some of the more, some of the sort of text, if you will, the synopsis of what I'm talking about here. So let's now take it back to what I think might occur here, okay? So what I've done is pretty much extract the market. So I've extracted this here, the global market cap information, and I've pretty much put it on a time frame where we can see it on a much more granular level. Plus, we also have the trading volume. Now, as some people have mentioned to me, and I do know that trading volume doesn't always indicate positive pressure. It can indicate, negative or positive pressure. I do think it's a pretty okay average indicator that, there's more demand happening in the market, for good or for worse, right? There's definitely more people trading. And I think, as I said, it's a decent indicator, all right? So essentially what we find here is we tend to take off, or at least have the most amount of demand come in for positive pressure on the halving. It's essentially like, imagine if it was like a massive siren happening all around the world at once saying, hey guys, Bitcoin's gonna go up in price, everyone come into crypto and make some free money. It's essentially a universal siren, okay? So everyone knows about it, then everyone will be posting about it on social media. You guys that have been in the market before know what's gonna happen. It's typical, okay? So that's definitely time to take off. And as we'll see in a second, it definitely does indicate that. But what we have to do is look into a little bit more granular detail here. Again, I am strictly using 24-hour trading volume as an indicator. So again, we're here right now in the grand scheme of things. So essentially what I've done is gone out to find on average where we started to see the most amount of demand, or at least volume, come into the market. And what I tended to find was that we started to see it 14 months out from the halving, right up to where it started to get really serious over here, 8 months out of the halving. Okay, so these points right here is when we started to see more and more demand pick up. And you can even see that with the blue line, aka that's the price of the global market cap, okay? So we can then use this to then go, okay, well, this was obviously zoomed in from December 5th, 2013 to the 1st of January 2017, aka, and again, I've tried to make sure they line the dates up. So essentially halfway through the bull market, or at least the bull market period in 2016 to 2018, all the way back to the tip of the last bull market. So obviously the last bull market in this case was December 5th, 2013, okay? So that kind of gives you some indication of what I'm talking about here. Now, the reason I haven't included all of this fluff, which is pretty much the bull run, which is pretty much this area over here, okay, is because it'll skew the trading volume. So if I included that, the trading volume will be pretty much like this. And of course, that's going to make this look tiny. So obviously I've left that out just for those of you who are wondering. And so then of course, if we come over here, same thing applies, right? So we're talking about January 8th, 2018 to January 1st, 2021. So of course, January 1st, 2021 is about here, okay, right before the bull run started to kick off. And it started way back here, as I said, January 8th, which was this tip of the 2018 cycle. So we're talking about all of this in here, basically. And if we zoom in, what did we find? Well, again, we found it really started to pick up 8 months out, okay? But again, it really technically started 14 months out, okay? So again, where are we right now? Well, I'm going to get to it in a second, but as these black markers have indicated, we're essentially here right now. We're essentially at the point where real big demand will start to increase. And of course, the green is takeoff. The halving itself is that siren signaling where everyone starts to come in and boom. As you can see here, there definitely is, picks and pockets where we essentially have this, weird 24-hour trading volume where it doesn't obviously indicate there's, positive pressure at all. But of course, this isn't the be all and end all. Okay, so one thing you'll find with this, and I'm going to get into this in a second, is that we did see a black swan event here with the big C, that big virus I can't mention on YouTube here. And what happened here was I would have presumed that the market would have looked more so something like this, okay? But of course, that black swan event came in overnight and tanked the market. So I do think I'm someone who's a firm believer we will see a black swan event before the cycle begins to ensue. That's not a guarantee, of course, but I feel like an event like this will happen when we can get very, very cheap prices, which are why I'm holding some of my tokens, or at least fiat, off to the side, preparing, okay? So again, I'm going to touch more on this in just a second. So then we fast forward, right? We're pretty much missing out halfway through the bull cycle to the main sort of tip of the bull cycle. As you can see here, we're kind of skipping this out because the 24-hour trading volume will be quite skewed. And then we're starting from, again, as we see down here, November 10th, 2021, which is the top of the previous bull cycle, right to now, July 30th. Okay, and so here's what we're working with. So as you can see, the trading volume is quite interesting here. It's actually kind of diminishing over time. Now, one thing I noticed was it's starting to slowly pick back up a little bit, but as I've mentioned multiple times here, this isn't the be-all and end-all indicator, okay? There's definitely other indicators, and there's a lot more, economic events we have to factor in here as to why this might be playing out exactly how history has repeated, right? Definitely gonna rhyme. So what's happening? Well, again, as these black markers have indicated, we are currently at the phase where I believe we will start to see demand begin to pick up on the more serious side of things, all right? 8 months out. Now, 8 months out from the halving, again, is August. So, again, halving April 1st, 2024, I believe it'll be about happening in the next month or so. Again, it's more or less the start to end of April, but I don't really know for sure. So in my opinion, okay, we've got about 9 months to accumulate as much as possible before the takeoff event happens. Now, I think all of us already knew that the halving indicates there's going to be a massive amount of pressure coming to the market. And of course, that everyone pretty much knows, have your bags packed by then. I think most of us can agree, but this is for those people who are a little bit unsure. Like I definitely was, once upon a time. I didn't know, hey, should I be buying more? Should I be selling? What should I be doing? Like I was a bit unclear, right? But this gives me, in my opinion, clear indications of when we should be looking to have our bags actually packed by, and at least, when is a good time to buy, essentially, right? So as I mentioned down here, in summary, we need to make sure that if you're someone who wants a 10x out of all your projects overall, well, you can look at this information and think to yourself, right, well, we're pretty much going to be seeing somewhat sideways action, probably in the next couple months, more positive price action, and so that we should be having our bags packed. So if you're someone looking for a 10x, you got a bit more time. If you're someone looking for a 50x, 60x, 70x, you have a lot less time because as we've seen previously, the cycle will begin to pick up. Now, again, I'm someone who is a proponent that we will see a black swan event come. But again, it's my opinion, it is much better for you to be in the market, have your bags at a place where you definitely feel comfortable, okay? Where you definitely know, okay, if it goes up from here, it's fine. If it goes down, it's fine because I'm still going to make my multiples, right? Your projects are still going to get to the prices where you have done your price predictions, where you have expected to. So with this all said, guys, I want to say, look, again, this sheet is free to download. All right, I'm going to let you guys view it and of course go through yourselves. Now, as I said, 24-hour trading volume is somewhat of a decent indicator, but of course it's not the be all and end all. There's many different things that come into it. The main thing I want to give you again today is that time period, is that date, right? The date is most definitely April, but I would say the date you definitely need to have your bags packed is no later than these periods here. Okay, so pretty much June, July 2024. And personally, what am I doing? Well, I'm making sure I definitely have all my positions in the next month. That's just me, okay? Because I don't want to be buying when the prices are inflated. Simple as that. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please, if you have enjoyed, if you have learned something new, share it with your friends, because ultimately, the more people that know about this, the better. It doesn't benefit anyone else over anyone else, if that makes sense. Take good care, guys. Talk to you all soon. Bye.